Come on now, bro. All these pound for pound fighters are too scared to fight me. They need 200 million to do it.
I got 200 million for you. I'm fighting Jake Paul.
Pussy. And
talk about fighting the best fighter in the world. You better be taking it serious. You know, that goes to show, you know, how serious he's taking me and how much he...
Crawford has completely shifted his stance on Jake Paul's place in the boxing world. And with Paul being floated as a potential stand-in for Tank, Crawford has now stated that he'd consider taking the matchup if the circumstances line up. This comes after Crawford repeatedly expressed that he didn't view Jake as someone who deserved to share a ring with established pros. But the lure of a huge payday appears to have influenced his perspective. In the beginning, Crawford couldn't stomach what Jake Paul symbolized, a content creator stepping into boxing, making millions, and challenging seasoned fighters who spent their lives paying dues. Crawford even compared Paul to a sideshow act, someone turning the sport into spectacle instead of real competition. He was among the strongest critics, claiming Paul was disrespecting boxing, a craft that requires patience, discipline, and years of tough learning.
Jake can punch with that right hand. Like, I seen him, you know what I mean, up close in person. Like, dude is big. He's not as slow as people think he is, and he can punch. You know, that's why a lot of people know, like, there was times where, you know, him and Tyson was in the ring and
But now he's stepped back from that stance. His outlook has shifted, and a bit of respect has begun to slip in. During an appearance on Logan Paul's podcast, Crawford openly admitted that his first impression of Jake wasn't accurate. He said, yeah, he's actually boxing. He explained that in the beginning, he didn't support the whole thing. He felt like, man, this guy, when people were criticizing you and your brother, I agreed. I figured you were just using your YouTube fame to walk into boxing and rake in huge checks. Meanwhile, there are fighters who've devoted their entire lives to the sport and don't earn a fraction of that. Crawford added that it felt like a slap in the face to those who'd built their careers the hard way. Strong words coming from someone who once believed Jake Paul was hurting the sport.
Because check this out, Tank ain't gonna lose this fight. Hell no. Tank ain't losing this fight. Too many holes. Man, Jake don't have enough experience. Yeah, man, this gonna be taking candy from a baby. You know, Jake is missing the rules. See, this is what happened when you don't grow up in the game. When you don't grow up in the game, man, at a young age, this is what happens, you know?
Crawford says this shift happened after he actually watched Jake Paul put in the work. He didn't see a social media star messing around, he saw someone training like a real boxer. And that's when things started to make sense to him. Crawford explained, after seeing how seriously he trains and how much effort he puts into improving, I thought, alright, this guy is getting better. That's not praise Crawford hands out casually. He's known for being meticulous, undefeated, and brutally demanding in the ring. So for him to look at Jake Paul and say he's impressed signals a real change in perspective. He's not calling Jake a top-tier fighter, but he is acknowledging that the commitment is genuine.
It's gonna happen. Ryan Garcia fights for DAZN, and Jake Paul fights on Netflix. I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line. Golden Boy has a contract with DAZN. Ryan Garcia has a contract with Golden Boy. And that's just the way it is. I mean, this is business. You know, Ryan Garcia's probably going to rant saying, oh, you're keeping me from making money and this and that and fighting. No, you have to go by the law, by the rules. You have a contract with DAZN.
Crawford says he really saw the difference when he traveled to Puerto Rico and watched Jake take on Ryan Borland. Jake ended that bout with a clean knockout, and Crawford, who happened to be there for a convention, made sure to study him closely. He recalled, at his last fight in Puerto Rico, I was watching and thinking, this guy can actually crack with that right hand. Something shifted in his outlook. Sure, Jake isn't facing top-level competition yet, but for him, it's a series of building blocks, the same way every fighter starts climbing.
The influencer world would be the most lucrative thing for my career, and I think I was the only one who actually wanted to do it. And actually wanted to go all the way, and that's why I set the goal for myself early to become a world champion, set the bar extremely high.
Crawford says he's come to understand that Jake isn't trying to jump ahead of his place. He's not out here acting like he can take on Usyk or Canelo next week. He's facing opponents that match where he is in his development, and he's getting better each time. A lot of people just want Jake Paul to fight Alexander Usyk, Crawford said. But that's not how it works, you've got to climb step by step. And after watching him in person, Crawford admitted he gained far more respect for Jake than he had before. That's a huge shift from someone who used to roll his eyes whenever Jake's name entered the conversation. Now he's not only recognizing Jake's progress, he's open to the idea of a matchup. And with Gervonta Davis potentially pulling out of the Jake Paul fight, that opportunity has opened up even more.
Napping, all sorts of crazy stuff, guys. If this is true, I just talk about just fumbling the bag, one of the biggest financial opportunities of his career, and he's about to ruin it. It's being reported that Jake's team is offering Ryan Garcia as a replacement for a December fight.
When Crawford first heard the rumors about Jake facing Tank, he said the whole idea sounded wild, and honestly, he wasn't wrong. It is wild. Jake Paul competes around cruiserweight, hovering near 200 pounds, while Tank fights down at 135. That's an enormous difference. But Jake didn't shy away from it. In a Netflix interview, after being told about Crawford calling the matchup crazy, Jake responded, "Yeah, this fight is crazy. You've got two of the biggest American names in boxing, and it's a true 50-50ths because of his talent and his experience. But my size gives me an edge, and that's what makes it so intriguing. Nobody knows how it'll play out."
See this footage? Look at Tank. Now, if you know what you're looking at, the guy must be around 150 right now, 153, something like that. And you can really tell when he's sideways. When you look at him sideways and see the depth. See, from the front view, you can't really tell. But when he turns sideways, the guy is a wrecking ball. He's literally a baby rhino out there.
That was vintage Jake, confident, strategic, and always promoting. But then came the question that really shook things up. Would he take on Terence Crawford? Jake didn't skip a beat. "I'd absolutely fight Terence, 100%. Let's make it happen." That's a matchup no one expected to be on the table. Crawford is 42-0, regarded as one of the top pound-for-pound fighters on the planet and arguably the most well-rounded boxer of his era. But he's also getting older, while Jake is younger, physically strong, and much larger for the weight. From a business and spotlight perspective, the idea checks every box.
Oh, not gonna lie, you really got knocked out.
Yeah, I really got knocked out. Watch the fight, you idiot. Went 12 rounds. Like, you're weird, bro. Bro didn't even knock me out or even throw punches. That's sad, bro. Just know, bro, I'm coming back. It's gonna be vicious. Like, you guys don't want to see that. You guys are weird trying to troll me over a fight I didn't even care about. God, did you?
From a legacy angle, the whole idea feels unreal, which is exactly why both guys seem willing to entertain it. Jake even revealed that a Canelo matchup was close to being finalized before the Mexican superstar pulled away and inked a deal with Saudi boxing figure Turki Al-Alshik. "I still think a fight between Canelo and me is gigantic," Jake said. "We're two of the biggest attractions in the sport, and it'd be an incredible test for me. But for now, my attention is on November 14th and taking care of Tank first."
Right. He's 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. But as you can see here, he's working on his versatility. He's now working on fighting orthodox. He's naturally a southpaw. Now he's working on fighting orthodox.
Now that the Tank fight might fall apart, the question becomes, who's next? Crawford slides into that spot perfectly, a fighter with pedigree, legitimacy, and elite skill. Jake brings the audience, the hype machine, and the crossover attention. Put them together and you get a matchup that pulls in massive viewership, and both of them are fully aware of that. What's fascinating is how fast the landscape in boxing can shift when the right money and the right moment intersect.
Jake Paul?
Do I think he beats Jake? Yeah. I mean,
It's a huge size advantage, though.
it is, but I think Tank got the skills to make sure he come out on top.
Do you think that Jake has gone better?
Yeah, I think actually Jake got tremendously better from the time frame that he started till now. And in the right situation, I also could see him become a world champion.
Really?
Yeah.
A year back, Crawford wouldn't even put Jake's name anywhere near real boxing conversations. Now he's openly saying, if the situation makes sense, I'd take that matchup. It's no longer unrealistic, it's smart business. And honestly, the reasoning is obvious. Crawford has already checked every box. 2-division undisputed champion, untouched record, universal pound-for-pound praise. There aren't many bouts left that truly thrill the audience or pay him what he's worth. A showdown with Jake Paul would smash pay-per-view records. At this stage, it's not about proving anything. It's about maximizing legacy and securing the biggest possible bag while the timing's perfect.
You know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake laying one good punch on Tank, it's over.
Jake's team is just as calculated. They understand that facing Crawford gives Jake a level of credibility he'll never earn by knocking out another former MMA guy. Crawford is the genuine article. And if Jake can compete with him, even just survive all the rounds, his standing in the boxing world jumps to an entirely new level.
Concern is, you know, the gloves. You understand what I'm saying? Because we don't fight in 12-ounce gloves. We don't use 12-ounce gloves. That's training gloves, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's 2 pounds away from...
Anthony Joshua has now chimed in as well. 2 ex-UFC fighters, including Nate Diaz, are reportedly being looked at as possible stand-ins for Gervonta Davis. But the shocker was when Joshua's name suddenly became part of the conversation. After rumors and some light teasing online, Eddie Hearn confirmed that real talks about a potential Jake Paul vs Anthony Joshua matchup have already happened. And Joshua's response couldn't have been more direct or confident. Just tell him the place and the date.
Kidnapping, all sorts of crazy stuff, guys. If this is true, I talk about just fumbling the bag, one of the biggest financial opportunities of his career, and he's about to ruin it. It's being reported that Jake's team is offering Ryan Garcia as a replacement for a December.
That's the kind of statement only Joshua can pull off, calm, direct, and completely unfazed. No drama, no hint dropping, just a heavyweight letting everyone know he's ready if the paperwork makes sense. It wasn't some promotional stunt or a vague social media tease. It was a straightforward message from one of the sport's biggest stars saying, if the deal is right, I'm on board. Eddie Hearn added that, as exciting as the matchup sounds, it's not something that comes together overnight. In an interview, Hearn pointed out that a lot still needs to be sorted out, especially the complicated business elements behind the scenes. The biggest obstacle right now is that Jake Paul is tied to Netflix, while Joshua is locked in with DAZN. The two services are direct competitors in the streaming battlefield, and unless they strike some sort of joint arrangement, the matchup can't progress beyond early talks. Without DAZN signing off or securing terms they feel satisfied with, we simply wouldn't take the next step, Hearn explained.
Put this fight in serious peril. So much so that reports have been saying that, hey, Jake Paul's team have already started contacting fighters about being a replacement, whether it be for this November 14th date or maybe a date in December. And the 5 names they already contacted are some of the biggest names in the sport.
But this is where things get serious. Hearn admitted he's already had a conversation with Jake Paul's manager, Nikisa Bidarian, about the whole scenario. So this isn't make-believe matchmaking anymore, there are real discussions underway. And Hearn added that Joshua has already been briefed on the idea and answered instantly with that trademark calm swagger of his, tell me the place and the time.
He's a marketing genius, but when it comes to people that pick his fights, I can't get my head around it. If Tank hits him clean, he's going to sleep. He'll have a lot of smoke blowing up his backside by his coaching team and people like that, but when he gets hit with real 10-ounce, well, I'm told it's 16-ounce gloves now, it's like an exhibition. Right. I'm told it's big gloves and head guards he's going to need.
Tank is a true lightweight, while Jake naturally hovers close to 200 pounds. It was always going to be a spectacle, maybe not the most sensible matchup, but definitely one that kept the boxing world buzzing. With the Davis fight now uncertain, Jake's camp has already started scanning for someone big enough to take over that blockbuster slot. And Jake didn't hold back when asked about it. Speaking to Sky Sports, he confirmed plainly that the conversations with Anthony Joshua are legit. It can absolutely happen, he said. Both sides are already in discussions and working to set it up for next year.
You guys can look into it. I didn't, you know me, I don't really speak about stuff outside the ring, but now I have to since it affects the ring, okay, and what happens in the ring. The fight may be canceled. It's a civil suit from my understanding, and I don't want to, confuse you guys or misinform you guys. I didn't look into it much.
Jake being Jake, he didn't end it there. He went on to say, it would be wild to step in with Anthony Joshua after this. To take a huge gamble, a huge challenge, and walk into a fight where literally nobody thinks I have even a tiny shot. That kind of thing fires me up. That's classic Paul, chasing the outrageous and selling it like it's normal. He knows the game perfectly. A matchup with Joshua instantly becomes one of the biggest events in modern boxing. And competitively? It's downright insane. Joshua stands 6 feet 6 inches, weighs around 250 pounds, owns an Olympic gold medal, and is a former 2-time unified heavyweight champion. Jake, despite real progress, is still basically a cruiserweight with under 10 professional fights. But he loves high-risk spectacle, and that's exactly why fans keep tuning in.
No, it's early, less than 2 weeks, no fighter is going to take that. There will be no fight if it isn't Tank Davis on November 14th. As this moment, there has been no cancellation, but it seemingly is in the direction of Tank Davis not fighting Jake Paul on the 14th. So no fighter, legitimate fighter, is going to step in.
Still, not everyone is buying into the buzz. Former UFC champion Michael Bisping had plenty to say about Jake Paul's next move, and he didn't sugarcoat a thing. On his YouTube channel, Bisping made it clear he feels zero sympathy for Jake now that he's scrambling to line up a replacement for Gervonta Davis. He voiced what a lot of people in combat sports have quietly been thinking: the only real draw behind Paul versus Davis was the what-if factor. Fans were curious to see whether Tank's elite skill could overcome Jake's massive size advantage. But with that matchup off the table, the excitement just isn't hitting the same.
Or it would be there's such a big weight discrepancy there, right? That's what some people...
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Tank probably sparred like heavyweights or light heavyweights and things like that.
Damn,
so
really?
It's probably nothing that he never seen before. I'm pretty sure Jake never fought nobody that little.
No, it's good.
So
that's the fascinating part about it.
I feel like it's more so harder for Jake
to
fight a smaller guy like that, because he.
Bisping also highlighted the exact issue that's been irritating hardcore fight fans for a long time: Jake's selection of opponents. Whenever Jake steps into the ring, people immediately question how legit the matchup really is. Most of his wins have come against former MMA fighters, older boxers, or guys well past their peak. It's more showbiz than top-tier competition. And even though Bisping agreed that Jake has gotten better, he still refuses to believe Paul would ever dare to face someone genuinely dangerous, like Francis Ngannou.
So Jake Paul versus Tank Davis November the 14th fight is off. The Jake Paul team have now reached out to Anthony Joshua, Floyd Mayweather, Ryan Garcia and Edgar Berlanga to replace Tank Davis, who is being sued for assault on his ex-girlfriend.
Bisping laid it out in classic fashion, stepping in against Francis Ngannou, a guy who stunned Tyson Fury, floored him, and, in the eyes of many fans, should have actually won that fight. From what I remember watching it live, Ngannou was unlucky not to walk away with the decision. Bisping said there's absolutely no scenario where Jake Paul takes that kind of fight. And if he somehow does, Bisping added he'd gladly admit he was wrong and raise his hand to it.
Is this really the case? It has been reported by a couple of online periodicals. And if this is the case, then it says something about influencer, crossover and exhibition boxing. Because the reports are that the Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis fight is light by 6,000.
Bisping isn't simply throwing shade, he's talking from the mindset of someone who's been in the cage. Ngannou isn't just some heavy hitter, he's the guy who almost flipped the entire sport on its head in his very first boxing match against the lineal heavyweight champion. Jake may love taking risks, but Ngannou is a whole different level of threat. He's huge, explosive, and carries knockout power that hurts world-class heavyweights. The danger compared to the reward is off the charts. And still, Jake and Ngannou have already traded words back and forth.
Now, Jake Paul, Tank, how you see that fight going?
Man, it's not a real fight. I like Jake.
Is Tank?
It's not a real fight.
It's not a fight. Does Tank have a chance? He's so much smaller. He's a real boxer, but he's so much smaller.
After Jake's bout with Mike Tyson, Ngannou jumped online and called him out, saying he wanted to smack him around. Jake shot back, labeling Ngannou a clout hunter. The exchange never turned into anything serious, but it did spark the idea in fans' minds. Still, as Bisping put it, that's exactly where the whole thing ends, on social media, not in an actual fight. At the same time, Nate Diaz's name has resurfaced. He already faced Jake once and managed to go all 12 rounds. And even though that matchup didn't exactly shake the sport, it still drew numbers. Diaz brings loyal fans, toughness, and that crossover flavor. But he's not the kind of megastar who can replace the buzz that Gervonta Davis carried.
In here, so early rumours for the replacement for Tank Davis to fight Jake Paul is Nate Diaz. It's going to be a rematch that no one asked for and no one wants to see. Unless you do, what's your thought?
The only names who could generate that kind of massive buzz are Anthony Joshua and, maybe down the road, Francis Ngannou. If Jake actually secures a fight with Joshua, every critic is finished. That matchup would smash viewership records on any platform. The sheer spectacle of it, a viral star against a former Olympic heavyweight champion, is crazy enough to sell itself. But the real hurdle is the business side. DAZN and Netflix aren't partners, they're competitors. So unless both agree to a huge joint promotion, this one might remain nothing more than speculation for now.
I don't want to beat up somebody that small. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
What do you think of the fight?
I don't want to lose to somebody that. There's no point in the fight. It's a great fight, actually. I'm not hating on the fight, but I think my thoughts on it is let's watch and see what happens.
Ryan Garcia said that boxing is turning into WWE.
Yeah,
with that type of matchup. Do you agree? Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor.
Yeah, but the whole thing's on WWE, so
right.
Like, at least that's happening and getting something to talk about.
Still, Joshua's simple, just tell me where and when, completely shifted the mood around the situation. It stopped feeling like a publicity stunt and started sounding like a matchup both camps are genuinely exploring. Hearn wouldn't even discuss it if the payout and global attention weren't huge. And for Jake, whether the Gervonta Davis fight happens or not, getting Joshua to say yes is the kind of victory that keeps his entire boxing saga alive. So at this moment, with Diaz, Ngannou, Joshua, and Crawford all in the mix, Jake Paul's upcoming moves look as unpredictable as ever. And for him, that's perfect, bold, risky, and impossible for the world to ignore. So what's your take? Drop your thoughts below and hit subscribe for more updates.